Hi everyone, in this video I am going to teach you the basics of the Ragozin defense. Let's first take a look at the starting position of this opening. White plays pawn to d4. Here black can play knight to f6. Ragozin can be started with the move pawn to d5 first, but I will choose this move order. It will be quite easy to get the basic position. So here white can either play knight f3 or pawn to c4. Let's say white plays the main move pawn to c4. He's trying to control the d5 square, so we have to fight back. To do that, we can play pawn to e6. Now, if white plays knight c3, we can play pawn to d5. If white plays knight to f3, we can play pawn to d5. So let's say white plays knight to f3. Here we can play knight pawn to d5, then knight c3, and we are at the starting position of the Ragozin defense after the move bishop b4. So keep in mind that Ragozin is very accurate according to the computer engines, and also it's a very good attack in opening. So you can play for a win as black here without any worries. After bishop b4, white has many replies. I will cover 8 of them, but not in depth. I will cover them in depth theory in the future videos. So let's first take a look at pawn to a3. What happens if white attacks our bishop? We can simply take this knight, and after b takes c3, we can castle our king into the safety on the king side. After bishop g5, you can connect the knights and play for a cool game. It's a very simple one, but also very good one. Okay, so what happens if he tries c take d5? Then you have to know that you have to always take with the pawn. Bishop g5, try to pin your knight. Here you have to play pawn to h6. If you take the knight, you have to take the c3 knight first. Otherwise, you will be losing this d5 pawn. And if we tries to keep the pin with bishop h4, here you can castle your king into the safety with kingside castle. Pawn to e3, trying to play the bishop d3 move. Here you can stop it with bishop f5. So after the bishop b4 move, there's another reply, which is the bishop f4 line. Here you can just take this pawn. If white tries to attack it and take back the pawn with pawn to e3, you can always protect it with pawn to b5. Pawn to a4, try to take back the pawn, we can protect it. If it takes, we can take back. And after a move like bishop e2, trying to prepare the castle, we can play bishop b7 with a very good position for black. So after bishop b4, what about bishop d2? Trying to avoid the double pawns on the c5. Here you can castle your king into the safety, and after move like pawn to e3, trying to protect the c4 pawn, we can play pawn to b6. If we take back the pawn, we can take back with the pawn. After move like bishop d3, we don't see any point of attacking the knight here, so we can bring back our dark square bishop to d6. So now you have seen how to play against pawn to a3, bishop d2, bishop f4, and also c take d5. Okay, let's now take a look at some other options. For example, queen to a4 check. This is also famous as the Alakana variation. So here we have to play knight to c6, protecting our bishop and stopping the check. If white plays pawn to e3, we can castle our king and unpin the knight. After move like bishop d2, we can take the pawn, bishop takes c4, then again bishop to d6. Alright, so what about queen b3? If we play that, we can play pawn to a5, and after pawn to a3, we can just attack the queen and sacrifice our bishop. Because the thing is, he can't take our bishop. If we take our bishop, we can attack it, and after queen b5, rook a5, queen is trapped. And this is a win for us. Okay, so now we know what to play against queen a4 check and queen b3. What about pawn to e3. Here you have to castle your king into the safety. If he develop his lightest card bishop to e2 or d3, you can just take this pawn. After bishop takes c4, you have to attack his center with pawn to c5. Okay, after now bishop b4, white has the move bishop g5. This is the main line, and here we have to attack this bishop with pawn to h6. And white has many choices, but first let's take a look at bishop to h4. You can just take this pawn, and after something like pawn to e3, you can play b5 with a very good game, and we already analyzed this line in another variation. So after bishop g5, pawn to h6, he has another reply, which is to take this knight. Here you have to play bishop take knight, b take, and then queen take bishop. Pawn to e3, we can just take this pawn, and after something like this, we can play knight d7. If white castles, we can castle on the king side. Okay, so after h6, if we play bishop f4, the same thing will happen again, but with a little difference. Here we are going to play knight to d5, try to attack this bishop. If queen c2, we can just take the bishop and protect our pawn with very good play. And if he plays queen f4 check, then again knight c6, take, and after a move like e3, we can castle. Okay, that's how you can play the Ragozin defense as a black, and I cover all the basics to play a proper game, and I analyze these lines with the computer, so you don't have to worry about any inaccuracies. So try these lines in your games and let me know in the comment section how was your experience with the Ragozin defense for black. Thank you for watching. Subscribe this channel for future videos and see you in another one.